This week's project is going to be a little more meaningful to me than some of the other ones I've done. A good friend of mine who lives up in the mountains of North Carolina has retired and sold his business and has asked me to clean something up for him. This is a Stanley 19-400 miter vise that he used when he first went into business selling art and frames. He was a frame maker for, I don't know, I think over 30 years. And I'm going to take this a step further than what he really asked. We're going to go overboard with the restoration. I'm going to get a brass plaque made to commemorate his time in business, and we're going to put it on a nice piece of wood for him. I think Stanley started making this type of vise back in the 1930s. This one is not that old, but if my research proves valid, they stopped making this, I think in the 1980s. I'm not sure when my buddy bought it. I'm guessing the early 90s, maybe late 80s. Probably bought it used, just getting started in business. But anyway, first thing we're going to do is get this thing taken apart and broken down. There's one, there's the other one. So it's really not in that bad a shape. The paint's actually in good shape, but we got a lot of glue here we're going to have to figure out how to get off. And all of the non-painted surfaces, I plan on shining that up really nice. This one's got a bunch of glue in it. Looks like we're missing a screw here too. See if we can't find one to replace that with. Glue's holding it on. Threads are okay. All right, now we just got to get this off. All right. I had suspicions because this was hard to get out, or excuse me, this one was, that they painted this after it was assembled because it felt like paint was on that thread. And sure enough, look at that. So they assembled this thing and then sprayed it. I'm going to run this across the wire wheel real quick, see what it does. All right, that was a good start. It took everything off, no problem at all. Left a lot of the paint, or maybe this is Japanning. I don't know how old this is, so it's hard to say, but I'm going to get down into these edges here with my little tool here for the Dremel. There we go. This glue's probably pretty old. I know Tim used this when he first started his business, but he ended up with all the modern equipment to be able to, you know, perform his work more efficiently. There we go. Yeah, there's a piece of wood put down in there. All right, put that in the vise just to get the glue off, and ran this across the wire wheel too, and just trying to put my game plan together on this. I think this goes in here, and that mounts to this, and this goes here. I think it might look kind of cool because I'm going to shine all this metal up real bright, and the threads on the post here will be shined up real bright. Might look kind of cool to sand and shine this up too. I think I'll do that. All right, I've got 80 grit paper here. Let's see if we can't get all that rough casting out of this. All right, I've got the 80 grit done, so I'm going to move up to 120 and just work through a few more grits, and then I'll go to the conditioning belts. Okay, this is up to 220. Okay, I've moved this piece over to my vise. I'm gonna do hand sanding from here, starting with 320, and probably gonna go up to, I don't know, 2,000 or 3,000 grit. I want that mirror finish on this piece on the project. You know, a lot of guys on YouTube and just other places talk about how much they dread sanding. I actually prefer to do pieces like this by hand. It's therapeutic, and I love just seeing the shine start to come through right underneath your hands. So that's 320. Let's move on to 400. All right, I'm up to 1,500 grit, and it's starting to shine a little bit. So the next step after this is probably 2,500 grit, and then I'll go to the buffing wheel and buff it with 2 different compounds to really get this thing to shine. All right, I think that came out pretty good. I just think this trim piece will look really nice on the vise. Next, I'm going to start cleaning these up with the wire wheel. I probably won't show you much of that, but I'm just going to get that done, and I'll be right back. Well, since I'm doing an over restoration on this, I can't let this go. There's casting lines all the way around this handle, and then this is probably where it was connected to the main piece when it was cast, and they just did a poor job of grinding that off. So I'm going to clean these up a little bit. I'm going to be careful because I don't want these to be slick looking. So I don't want like a shiny part in the middle of the handle, but I am going to take care of these a little bit. All right, here's the handle before, and this is after. So all I did was I wire wheeled everything, cleaned this up real good. You saw me do the file work. Wire wheeled this, and then used my little Dremel plastic wheels, 220 grit to polish the threads up, and then polish this area and the tip here with a fiber wheel. I re-beveled this. There were some marks in there where I was using a punch to get this out, so I ground those out, shined it up, and then re-beveled that to make it look nice. For the piece that goes on here, this is what the original ones look like. This one's just been wire wheeled, and I only used a fiber wheel on this. I don't know if you can see these. I think they're casting marks. I don't think that's pitting. I don't want to have to go down deep enough to get rid of those because, you know, it's close to the Stanley name here, and I don't want to re-profile this edge, so I'm going to leave it like it is, but I'm not going to paint this face. I think it looks nice, kind of shiny. All right, I just took care of some of the nooks and crannies with the sandblaster, and everything's looking good. But what I don't like about this, if hopefully you can see the original grind marks from the factory, and if I'm going to do an over restoration, this mix of rough casting and this here is just not going to work. Okay, that's finishing up with a 180 grit. If you notice, I switched to hand sanding. I just think hand sanding with the block was going to eventually give me a better finish. And I do have some deep scratches in here. These you see going this way are the original milli marks. You can tell by the curve of them. These are scratches. All right, I'm just going to keep going on up to whatever grit sandpaper I have here. All right, this is sanded up to 1200 grit. I took it over to the buffing wheel with the black compound and then the green compound just to do a little spot. And you can see here, it's coming out okay. Well, it seems like no matter where I turn this or how I put it in here, it looks cloudy through the camera, but in person, it looks okay. It's gonna need probably 1 or 2 more trips back to the buffing wheel before I'm done. Okay, for you, it's only been a second. For me, it's been about 2 weeks since I've had this on the bench. And I put it away because I had other things to work on. And when I pulled it back out, I just thought, you know, I'm not happy with this. I don't even know if the camera's picking it up, but I'm seeing too many scratches in here. And I've mentioned before, this is an over restoration, or I'm gonna over restore this. You see these scratches here. So I'm just not happy with it. So I'm gonna start over again on the cleanup of this part of the project anyway. So I'm going to start with my die grinder, and I'm going to start with 60 grit sandpaper and just work my way all the way back up. Well, I'm still here. I'm up to 1500 grit. So this is sanded to 1200. So I'm going to go all the way, I think, to 3000. I definitely got the scratches out that were in there before that I didn't get out. They're all gone. Now, whether I put new ones in that I haven't gotten out is yet to be determined. I hope not. The black compound for me is really more about getting the final scratches out. It's not putting the shine on it yet. And that's looking pretty good. So you can see I got a pretty good reflection on that. I'll buff it one more time with probably flits after I get done with everything else. So for now, I got to go back and clean up all the compound off of this and get this thing ready for paint. All right, I've got everything prepped and ready for paint. Got everything taped off that I don't want painted. Got all my screw holes filled in. So yeah, let's get it done. And I'm going to be using this Rust-Oleum hammered black. I've really been liking this stuff lately. So all right, let's get it painted. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with the paint job. I got it painted yesterday. Got 2 good coats on here, so most of these pieces are done, but I do want to come in and highlight some of the lettering. Oh, I forgot these. So let's work on that. Okay, while I'm waiting on all the paint to dry, I need to make a base for this miter vise to sit on. And I had some cherry plywood left over from a project from a couple years ago. So I think I'm going to cut out a square of this. And then I'm going to use this. I got some 3/8 maple, which this is just kind of stock I keep here to make floating picture frames out of. So I think I'm just going to put I'll just rip this down to the same height and use this maple as some edge banding and see how that looks. All right, got my base cut out. And I think I can make all of my edge banding out of this one piece of soft maple here. I'm going to go rip it down to, this is 3/4 inch plywood, so I'll rip these down to 3/4 and then I'll start 45ing them and put them on. I'm just going to be putting this on with some glue and holding it in place with some little 23 gauge pen nails. All right, I'll let that dry and then we'll get it sanded and put some finish on it. All right, got the base done. Sanded it, wiped it down with a tack cloth. First thing I'm gonna do is get a couple coats of the sanding sealer on there, and then I'll probably end up with 5 or 6 coats of the semi-gloss lacquer on it. I'm very glad that I decided to go back and repolish this surface. I think it made a huge difference. All right, ready for reassembly. I pre-oiled this here. Let me just wipe a little bit of that off. So I'll just tell you a little bit about each part as I reassemble. So this piece here, I repainted, cleaned, and polished this area. This was originally painted, but I thought it would look nice if it was polished up, just to give it, a little bit of sparkle, since it is going to be a display piece. Let me get just a little bit of oil in here. Not that this is going to get used, but it would be nice for it to spin nicely. All of my bolts, I just cleaned them up and then put them on the fiber wheel and buffed them out. Wow, that is super smooth. Again, this bolt here, just polished it up. See, there's a little indentation there for this to go into. Well, I got a low battery warning, so when I went to change my battery, I looked at the light and realized just how terrible the lighting was. I had my ring light up, so I've removed it, and we'll just go with this. All right, now we put a washer on. And then this piece here, which I polished all these up as well. And then you have this thumb screw here that goes in here, which will lock this down and keep it from spinning. I am going to put a little oil on these threads. Like I said, this is never going to get used again, but I know people will want to play with it. And it'll help protect these threads from getting rusted. Alright, appears to be square there. Square here. Y'all, I'm sorry if this isn't showing up great on camera because I've tried a lot of different angles to get it to where the shine, you can see it, but it doesn't wash out. But anyway, it's done. I think my friend Tim is going to be real happy with it. It's a Stanley 19-400 miter vise used in his framework gallery for a long time when he started off in business. It works. I know he's not going to use it. And this one here, you just back it out and it allows you to tilt it. Made a nice little base for it and put a plaque on there to commemorate his time in business. Well, for me, that project had some meaning to it because I was able to fix up something that meant something to a friend of mine, make it look a little better than it did before and give it back to him. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I might not have a video out for a couple weeks, and then they're going to be every other 2 or 3 weeks for a little while. I've got some other projects I've got to get done, both around the house and other places. And I've got a little travel coming up, so don't be surprised if you don't see me for a few weeks. I do appreciate everyone's support.